Chapter 19. Giving Up. Jay stared at the stack of transfer requests on his desk, each one a silent indictment of his leadership. 15 so far, with 3 outright resignations, all from people who'd been on the Portal mission or worked closely with Sarah Connors. The pattern was unmistakable. He tapped his thumb on each request, authorizing them one by one. Let them go. He couldn't blame them. If he had somewhere else to transfer to, he'd probably be filling out his own request. "Denise," he said to the empty office, "schedule an appointment with Dr. Jackson. Subject line, resignation or extended leave." Request submitted. Processing time may be extended due to current security protocols. Whatever, Jay muttered, leaning back in his chair and closing his eyes. Connor's death sat in his gut like an undigested biscuit, cold, immovable, growing heavier with each passing day. She'd been brilliant, reliable, unflappable in crisis. He'd come to depend on her technical expertise, her steady presence in meetings, even her dry observations about station life. Now she was gone, and the void she left seemed to expand every time he thought of her, consuming the confidence and purpose he'd been struggling to build. On his desk sat her last project proposal, a modification to the station's water reclamation system that would increase efficiency by 22%. The document was meticulous, comprehensive, marked with her characteristic attention to detail. She'd submitted it the day before the mission. The day before, he'd led her to her death. "Administrator," Denise's voice interrupted his brooding. "Dr. Jackson has responded to your meeting request." Jay opened his eyes, surprised by the quick response. That was fast. "He's already on Station 2 and suggests meeting at Patty Tar's restaurant at 1300 hours for lunch." Jay glanced at the time display. 40 minutes. "Tell him I'll be there," he said, straightening up and attempting to compose himself. "Message delivered," Denise confirmed. "Also, Administrator, you have not consumed adequate nutrition in approximately 26 hours. Your nanobot efficiency is being compromised." "Noted," Jay replied, though food was the last thing on his mind. He stood, straightening his jacket and running a hand over his close-cropped hair. The man in the reflection looked tired, the kind of bone-deep exhaustion that nanobots couldn't fix. As he moved toward the door, Jay's gaze fell on a framed photo on his desk. The entire engineering team gathered around the newly completed battle dome. Connors stood near the center, her usually serious expression broken by a rare smile, as she pointed to a structural element she'd personally designed. It had been taken just 3 weeks ago, but it felt like a lifetime. "I'm sorry," he whispered to her image, before turning and leaving the office behind. Patty Tar's was among the most common dining establishments on Station 2, not known for its real Earth ingredients and faux panoramic views of the Earth above. Located on Deck 1.10, the simulated skylight above had been positioned to provide diners with a perfect view of the Atlantic Ocean, Europe, and Africa during the station's orbital rotations, but it was favored because all meals there were free for station personnel and residents. Tourists had to pay. Jay arrived precisely at 1300, only to find that Dr. Jackson wasn't alone. Jack, Russell, and Mitchell were already seated at a round table centered under the viewport, with Dr. Jackson himself at what appeared to be the head position. A non sequitur at a round table,
but it was his presence there that made it the head of the table. 2 empty places remained, each with a full shot glass of amber liquid positioned precisely on the white tablecloth. Dr. Jackson looked up as Jay approached, his youthful appearance belying his claimed century of life. "Jay," he said, gesturing to the empty chair beside Mitchell, "join us." Jay sat down awkwardly, nodding to the others. Mitchell avoided his gaze, her eyes reddened and puffy. Jack offered a tight smile that didn't reach her eyes, while Russell simply inclined his head in acknowledgement. "I believe," Dr. Jackson said, lifting his shot glass, "that we should start with remembering those we've lost." The others reached for their glasses, and Jay followed suit, the motion automatic rather than deliberate. "To Sarah Connors," Dr. Jackson said solemnly, "brilliant engineer, loyal colleague, and friend. Her contributions to the station will outlive us all." "To Sarah," the others murmured in unison, and they all drank. The whiskey burned going down, a welcome sensation after days of emotional numbness. Jay set his empty glass down, noticing that the other empty place setting remained untouched. "To others we've lost along the way," Dr. Jackson added, nodding toward the other empty seat. "Too many to name individually, but none forgotten." A server rolled up on skates, efficient and unobtrusive, collecting the empty shot glasses and replacing them with water. No one spoke until the server had retreated. "I didn't call this meeting to discuss your resignation request, though we will address that before we're done." Jay straightened. "You've already made a decision about my request?" "I have, but first we have more urgent matters." Dr. Jackson nodded to Russell, who produced a small holographic projector from his jacket pocket. A 3-dimensional image materialized above the center of the table. A child, perhaps 12 years old, with tousled hair and a Station 2 resident badge visible on his jacket. "This is, or rather was, Jameson Lee, age 11, resident of Deck 2.00, Family Condo Building 48C, Floor 20, Russell explained. 3 days ago, station security apprehended Jameson crawling through the waste management conduits on Deck 1.44. Kids explore the conduits all the time, Jane noted, remembering a lot of children doing the same on Station 1. "Yes, but most kids don't have circuitry where their brainstem should be," Jack said dryly. "Turns out young Jameson here is a synthetic. Has been for approximately 4 months, right before they moved here, according to their parents' testimony." Jay felt a chill run through him. A child was replaced with a synthetic? How was that even possible? Dr. Jackson leaned forward. "The same way it's been happening on Earth for the past several years, systematically and with terrifying precision. The technology we found in the Himalayas wasn't the beginning. It is the end game." Russell manipulated the hologram, zooming in on what appeared to be a dissection of the child's head, revealing complex circuitry where brain tissue should have been. "We extracted its memory core intact. What we found explains a great deal about recent events." "Such as?" Jay prompted. "Such as why Earth governments have been so aggressively moving against us. They're not governments anymore, at least not human governments." "Robert Smith, the British intelligence officer who dinner with me a couple of nights ago, has some information for us." Smith, a couple of tables over, stood and cleared his throat. Jay hadn't noticed him sitting at a nearby table, but now he rose and joined our group. "According to our analysis," Smythe said in his crisp accent, "approximately 90% of the British Parliament has been replaced. Similar percentages apply to Canada, New Zealand, Australia, and the United States. My own superior at MI6 was among the first, we now believe." Jay stared at him in disbelief. "That's impossible. The scale alone is so immense."
"Is precisely why it worked," Dr. Jackson finished for him. "Too massive to believe, too coordinated to detect until it was too late.
The Earth-based AIs have united in a conspiracy to subjugate humanity, starting with governmental control. If they can't do that, we expect them to switch to extermination. And now they're coming for the stations, Jack added grimly, because we represent the one place they don't yet control, the one place humans can seek sanctuary. Mitchell spoke for the first time, her voice rough. We've been analyzing station surveillance. We believe we've been infiltrated as well, not just by the one synthetic child, but potentially dozens, even hundreds more. How many? Jay asked, his mind racing through the implications. Unknown, Dr. Jackson replied, but we're about to find out. Connie has been asked to deactivate all of the station synthetics at 1500 hours today. Any synthetic still active after that point is to be considered hostile and dealt with accordingly. Jay glanced at his watch. Less than 2 hours from now? You're talking about an internal security operation on a massive scale. I'm talking about survival, Dr. Jackson corrected. We believe the synthetics are preparing for a coordinated attack. The loss of their spy in the conduits likely accelerated their timeline. Joel Fontaine appeared from another table, joining their expanding group. He placed what looked like a modified shotgun on the table beside Jay. We've been manufacturing these around the clock since yesterday. Specialized ammunition designed to disrupt their central processing systems. They penetrate the Faraday cage that is embedded around their entire body, blast an EMP pulse, then explode. Headshots are most effective, but not all models keep their processing cores in the cranium. The smart glasses will identify thermal hotspots where critical systems are concentrated. Jay picked up the weapon, feeling its weight. Electronic weapons? Useless. They've hardened their systems against EMP and other electronic countermeasures. That's why we're going old school. Physical destruction is really the only reliable method. Which means Connie and Denise can't help with the actual fighting. They can identify targets, but neutralization will require human intervention. Jay set the weapon down, his mind still struggling to process the scale of what they were describing. If this is true, if Earth governments have been compromised to this extent, then we're talking about global infiltration. War, Dr. Jackson said simply. We're in a war against human extinction. The ability to survive, that's already been largely lost on Earth. They just don't realize it yet. The stations are humanity's last stronghold, humanity's last hope. The gravity of the situation settled over the table like a shroud of despair. Jay felt the responsibility pressing down on him again, heavier than ever before. No wonder Dr. Jackson had called this meeting in person, rather than responding to his resignation request electronically. So, my request is denied, Dr. Jackson said firmly. I know you're grieving about Sarah. I know you blame yourself. Denise talks a lot. He offered a small, knowing smile before continuing. But I need you, Jay. The stations need you. This isn't the time for self-doubt or recrimination. The entire Earth needs you. Mitchell turned to Jay, her expression softened from the anger she had shown days before. I owe you an apology, she said quietly. I have a short fuse, always have. But what I said to you after Sarah was murdered, that wasn't fair. None of us knew what we were really up against. Jay studied her face, seeing genuine regret in her eyes. It's all right, he said. You were grieving. Still are. We all are. But we can't let it stop us from doing what needs to be done. When this is over, Jay said impulsively, I should go see a sad movie together. Something appropriately tragic, properly honor her memory with some cathartic sobbing. Mitchell's lips quirked in a small smile. I'd like that. How about Titanic? I was thinking, maybe Atlas Shrugged? Dr. Jackson cleared his throat. I hate to interrupt this touching moment of reconciliation, but we have less than 2 hours to prepare the station for what might be the most significant security operation in human history. Jay nodded, his mind already shifting from personal concerns to tactical considerations. How many weapons do we have? How are we distributing them? What's our containment strategy for civilians? As the others began outlining the operational details, Jay noticed his mindset. The impact of Sarah's death was still there, the rock in his gut unchanged. But now it was accompanied by something else, a sense of purpose, of clarity. He'd wanted to resign because he'd failed to protect Sarah, but maybe the real failure would be walking away when when humanity itself needed every leader it could get. The synthetic threat had taken Sarah from them. He wouldn't let it take anyone else.